Welcome in. It's great to have you here with us today.
Really glad you could join us.
Yeah, and if you are tuning in, it's probably because you've got that drive to constantly understand the changing landscape around you, but you also want to avoid the crushing weight of information overload.
Right, the endless white paper.
Exactly. You want the insight, the aha moments without having to dig through a mountain of technical jargon. Well, you are in the exact right place. Today, we're opening up a really fascinating set of materials, collectively looking at a document called The Autonomous Enterprise, SAP and the Rise of AI Agents.
It's a huge topic.
It really is, and we are going to extract the absolute best nuggets of knowledge from it just for you. So to start us off, give us the big picture here.
Yeah, so it really is a remarkable shift we're looking at. What we're examining today is basically a fundamental rewiring of how global business operates. To give you the overarching mission of our deep dive today, we are exploring the evolution of enterprise software. I mean, anyone listening to this knows SAP has been the system of record for the Fortune 500 for decades, right? You put the data in, it keeps the score.
You feed the machine.
Right, you feed the machine. But we're crossing a threshold now. We're moving from that static system of record to what they call a system of intelligence.
Okay.
Where the ERP is no longer just a database you query. It's actually an active, autonomous participant in the business.
Okay, let's unpack this, because that transition, it sounds massive, but it is so easy to dismiss as just another tech buzzword, you know?
Oh, definitely.
Let's look at the historical state of things for the past few decades.
Yeah.
Systems like SAP have essentially acted as these gigantic, incredibly complex filing cabinets,
Yeah.
but they've always required an army of human middlemen to function. People manually transferring numbers, running batch processes, constantly feeding the beast just so the business knows its current inventory or cash flow.
Exactly. And the instinct is to think, well, we've had automation for years, and we have.
Right.
But what's fascinating here is the leap from deterministic automation to probabilistic AI agents. That is the crucial distinction you have to make.
Deterministic versus probabilistic.
Yes. In the past, we used robotic process automation, or RPA. That is deterministic. It relies on strict, hard-coded if-then rules.
If this happens, do that.
Right. If an invoice arrives in this specific folder, copy field A to field B. But if the invoice format changes slightly,
A whole thing breaks.
it completely breaks. The bot doesn't understand what it's doing. It just follows a path. But the AI agents we're talking about today are probabilistic. They're powered by large language models that can actually comprehend unstructured data, figure out the context, and execute workflows dynamically.
That makes perfect sense. So we're moving from software that can only read a barcode, basically, to software that can read a room.
That's a great way to put it.
Let's ground this in a specific everyday workflow, something like procurement. We all know what it takes to get a purchase order through a legacy system.
Oh, it's a nightmare.
It is. Usually a buyer has to email vendors, wait for replies, get 3 different quotes, open those PDF attachments, manually compare the pricing and lead times, and then
And physically type the winning data into the SAP module.
exactly to generate the PO. But in the autonomous enterprise, an AI agent takes that entirely off your plate. The text breaks this down so well. The agent uses an LLM to read the vendor's unstructured email replies. It parses the nuance of the negotiation, compares the lead times against current supply chain delays, and then autonomously executes the PO in the database.
Which brings us to a really profound realization about the workforce.
Yeah.
This raises an important question for you listening right now to chew on. Is the era of the human administrative professional completely over?
Wow.
Because if the AI is doing the data collection, the contextual analysis, and the system updating, the human being is no longer the typist. They are transitioning into what the source calls an agent supervisor.
An agent supervisor.
Right. You oversee a digital entity that is doing the actual executing.
But wait, is that really a promotion? Because calling someone an agent supervisor sounds great on a LinkedIn profile, sure. But in reality, doesn't that just make you a babysitter for code?
It's a fair point.
If the agent is doing all the heavy lifting of evaluating vendor quotes and executing the purchase, the human is just sitting there waiting for an alert.
That is a very fair critique, and it gets right to the heart of the operational tension here. But it isn't just babysitting, because managing probabilistic output requires a much higher level of judgment.
How so?
Well, when a deterministic RPA bot breaks, it just stops. It throws an error. But when a probabilistic AI agent encounters a weird edge case, say, a vendor offers a massive discount, but with a really strange caveat about delivery liability, The agent might not know how to weigh that unique legal risk.
Ah, I see.
So the agent supervisor isn't there to type the data. They're there to manage the complex, high-stakes exceptions that require human intuition.
Okay, let's move this out of the back office then and out into the physical world, out onto the factory floor. The source talks about this concept of maintenance 4.0.
Yes, the predictive maintenance piece.
Now, I want to push back a little here because predictive maintenance isn't exactly a brand new concept.
No, it's not.
We've had IoT sensors on assembly lines for years. Plant managers have had dashboards showing vibration metrics and heat levels for a long time. What makes this maintenance 4.0 iteration fundamentally different from what a facility is already doing?
It's a great point to bring up. Previous iterations of predictive maintenance were largely siloed.
Okay.
A sensor detects a high vibration on a motor, it triggers an alert on a dashboard, and a human maintenance worker sees it. Then that human writes up a work order, checks the warehouse for a spare part, and schedules the downtime.
So it was predictive, but the workflow was still entirely manual.
Exactly. If we connect this to the bigger picture of AI agents, Maintenance 4.0 connects the physical sensor directly to the central nervous system of the ERP, autonomously.
So it's about simultaneous processing and execution, not just alerting.
Right. Imagine a critical bearing on an assembly line starts to show a microvariance in vibration. The AI agent doesn't just flash a red light on a screen.
What does it do?
In a fraction of a second, it cross-references that specific vibration pattern against a decade of global historical breakdown logs to predict the exact time to failure. Simultaneously, it checks the SAP warehouse module to see if the required replacement bearing is in stock.
Wow.
It sees the part is there, checks the shift schedule for a qualified technician, generates the work order, and reroutes production to another line to minimize downtime.
And it does all of this before the machine ever actually stops working.
Exactly.
And before a human even opens their laptop. Just think about the reality of a plant manager today. We've all known people in those roles, or maybe you've been in one. Your day is chaos.
Constant firefighting.
Yes. You are running around, putting out fires, dealing with unexpected downtime that costs the company tens of thousands of dollars an hour. The idea that the granular, second-by-second health of the machinery is being actively managed and solved by a system that never sleeps. That is a total paradigm shift.
It really is.
You aren't managing the breakdown anymore. You are managing the overall production strategy.
And that paradigm shift extends all the way to the very top of the corporate ladder, too.
Yeah.
When you scale this autonomy up to the executive level, you start looking at what we might call a C-suite agent.
Oh, the C-suite agent.
This fundamentally alters how a company understands its own financial health.
Absolutely. Anyone who has ever been adjacent to a corporate finance department knows the universal nightmare of the end of quarter scramble.
The worst time of the year.
It is this frantic, highly stressed period. You have accountants hunting down missing $5,000 invoices from 3 months ago, like true crime detectives.
Yeah, exactly.
Dealing with complex intercompany transactions, currency conversions, trying to reconcile accounts. It is a monumental effort just to figure out what happened over the last 90 days.
But the autonomous enterprise introduces the mechanics of a continuous close, or what the source calls a living audit.
A living audit.
Because the AI agents are constantly updating the system in real time. They are handling the procurement, managing the maintenance, locking in sales, and reconciling the ledger dynamically.
Yeah.
So the financial data is never stale.
It's always current.
Always. Furthermore, these agents can synthesize this internal reality with external data. They can plan things as complex as planned expansions by weighing the real-time internal cash flow against external global supply chain trends and market sentiment.
So the ultimate result of all of this interconnected real-time data processing is that the financial truth of a company becomes available every single second.
Exactly.
You don't have to wait for a 90-day cycle to close to know if you are profitable or bleeding money.
Which raises an incredibly disruptive question for modern finance. Will the traditional concept of quarterly earnings become totally obsolete?
That is a huge question.
Right. If you are a major institutional shareholder, why would you accept a highly curated, retrospective, smoothed-out report every 3 months when the technology exists to provide a 247 real-time performance dashboard? The demand for unprecedented transparency is going to skyrocket.
Wait, though. Is real-time financial transparency actually desirable for a C-suite?
Good question.
Think about the reality of the stock market. If Wall Street sees a bad Tuesday in real time, maybe a key shipment gets delayed by a storm, causing a momentary dip in revenue, Won't that cause massive, completely unnecessary stock
Oh,
volatility?
absolutely.
The whole point of a 90-day quarter is to smooth out the operational noise so investors can see the actual trend. A CEO might have that 247 dashboard on their desk, but I can't imagine they would ever willingly give Wall Street the login.
And that is the exact friction point corporate boards are debating right now. There's a massive difference between internal operational reality and external reporting strategy.
Right.
You are absolutely right that a CEO wants to control the narrative
Yeah.
to prevent algorithmic trading bots from tanking their stock over a Tuesday supply chain hiccup.
Nobody wants that.
But the pressure won't just come from public shareholders. It'll come from private equity, board members, and major partners who will demand API access to that living audit as a condition of doing business.
Wow. So they won't have a choice.
The technology enables the transparency. The governance will have to figure out how to gate it.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though. With all this talk about AI taking over procurement workflows, executing predictive maintenance, and running a continuous financial close, we have to look at the human element.
The elephant in the room.
Yes. If the software is autonomous, what is the actual value of the human workforce?
This is perhaps the most vital operational question in this entire transition. We have to pivot the conversation away from the simplistic fear of robots taking our jobs and instead focus on what is essentially a massive cognitive shift within the enterprise.
A cognitive shift.
Yes. The reality is that humans will transition away from executing the repetitive foundational processes. The goal is for human capital to move toward optimizing the high-level strategy and handling the unique, complex exceptions that the probabilistic AI cannot confidently resolve.
But that creates a profound paradox. Let's call it the GPS paradox.
I like that.
We all know what happens when you use a GPS to drive everywhere in a new city. You get to your destination faster, you avoid traffic, it is highly efficient. But if you do that for 2 years and then one day your phone dies, you suddenly realize you have absolutely no idea what the actual layout of the city is.
You're completely lost.
You don't know how the streets connect because you never had to navigate them yourself. You lost the ground level understanding.
That is a perfect analogy for the tension between theory and practice in the autonomous enterprise.
Yeah.
If you have a generation of workers who have never manually processed a complex purchase order, who have never physically diagnosed a failing piece of machinery, who have never had to manually reconcile a messy quarterly spreadsheet, do they truly understand the nuances of the business?
Do they?
Probably not. There is a massive difference between explicit knowledge, which the AI has, and tacit knowledge, which is the human muscle memory of how a business actually breathes and functions.
Exactly. If your entire career is spent as an agent supervisor, you are essentially managing a black box. And that reliance on the AI's GPS creates a terrifying vulnerability. If no one knows how to drive the car manually anymore, what happens when the AI decides to drive us off a cliff?
Right.
Because let's be honest, these AI agents aren't perfect. We are dealing with large language models, and they hallucinate. They confidently make connections or execute commands based on flawed logic or misread context.
Which transitions us directly into the absolute necessity of integration governance.
Let's get into that.
You cannot simply plug an autonomous, probabilistic AI agent into a core SAP environment, give it right access to your central database, and hope for the best.
That sounds like a recipe for disaster.
It is. It demands a fundamental architectural shift in how internal systems operate. This is where the concept of a trust layer becomes non-negotiable.
Okay, let's define that, because trust layer sounds like marketing speak. What is a trust layer functionally at the architectural level? Because it can't just be a pop box asking the human, are you sure you want to let the AI do this? That defeats the whole purpose of autonomy.
Right, it can't be manual approval every time. Functionally, a trust layer acts as a digital quarantine and validation engine.
Okay.
In a traditional system, when a human clicks save, the data is written to the database. In an autonomous system, when the AI agent decides to execute a workflow, that decision does not go straight to the database.
Where does it go?
It is routed into the trust layer, which runs a secondary deterministic validation against predefined financial risk models, compliance frameworks, and historical anomaly detectors. It is the hard-coded guardrail around the probabilistic engine.
Ah, so it's the human on the loop versus human in the loop concept.
Yeah.
The AI runs the process, but the trust layer ensures it doesn't violate the laws of physics or corporate policy before committing the action.
Exactly.
But even with guardrails, anomalies slip through. Imagine a high-stakes scenario from the text. An AI agent misreads a nuanced geopolitical supply chain report, deduces that a massive shortage of a specific raw material is imminent, and autonomously executes a purchase order for $10 million worth of stock that the company absolutely does not need.
A nightmare scenario.
And say the trust layer misses it because the vendor is approved and the company has the cash flow. The purchase goes through.
That is the $10 million operational liability. In that specific scenario, who is legally and operationally responsible?
Yeah, who is it?
Is it the software provider who built the underlying LLM that hallucinated the geopolitical risk? Is it the internal IT team that configured the trust layer that failed to catch the anomaly?
Right.
Is it the agent supervisor whose department oversees that commodity? Or does the ultimate accountability still rest with the C-suite who decided to implement the autonomous enterprise architecture in the first place?
It is a legal and governance minefield, and it's not a hypothetical we can kick down the road. Every single Fortune 500 company moving toward integrating AI agents into their core ERP is going to have to answer that question.
Yes, they are.
And some of them are going to answer it the hard way with a massive financial hit in the very near future.
It requires a completely new framework of corporate governance and vendor service level agreements. When the process is automated, the liability isn't. The humans may not be doing the data entry, but the burden of accountability remains stubbornly human.
So, what does this all mean? Let's take a breath and synthesize the incredible journey we've just been on with this deep dive.
There's been a lot to cover.
We started by looking at enterprise software like SAP, which for decades has been the static system of record, a giant digital filing cabinet requiring an army of human middlemen just to maintain the status quo.
Right.
And we've unpacked its evolution into a dynamic, autonomous intelligence. We're looking at a near future where probabilistic AI agents use language models to execute complex procurement workflows, where maintenance 4.0 systems predict and solve machine failures autonomously, and where the continuous financial close creates a living 24/7 audit of a company's financial truth.
And the practical takeaway for you, the listener, is recognizing where your own value must migrate in this new landscape.
Exactly.
Surviving and thriving in the business world of tomorrow means entirely shifting your mindset. You have to move away from finding your professional value in doing the process and instead find your value in governing the system.
Governing the system.
It is about strategic oversight, managing complex exceptions, and ensuring the architectural integrity of that critical trust layer.
You are no longer the one pulling the oars. You are the one navigating the currents while the AI rows the boat. It is a massive upgrade in capability, but as we've discussed, an equally massive upgrade in operational responsibility.
Beautifully said.
We want to leave you with one final, lingering concept to explore on your own today. We talked extensively about humans moving away from the ground-level grunt work to handle the high-level exceptions that the AI can't solve.
The GPS paradox.
Right. But think about this. If an enterprise runs autonomously for a decade and an entire new generation of workers never actually performs that foundational grunt work, will future humans even possess the tacit knowledge and hands-on experience required to recognize, let alone fix, those high-level exceptions when the AI eventually gets stuck?
That is the million-dollar question.
It is a fascinating paradox to chew on as we step into this new era of the autonomous enterprise. We want to warmly thank you for joining us on this deep dive today. Keep staying curious, keep questioning the changing world around you, and we'll catch you next time.